Hi everyone, I'm Shelly and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. Today I just wanted to share a homeschooling video with you, something that I'm hoping is going to be helpful because I wanted to tell you how you can simplify your home education routine. People tend to think of homeschooling as something that has to be high stress just by its very nature. And the fact is that it really doesn't have to be that way. There are a lot of things that you can do in your homeschool to keep that high stress level out. And it will really make a more enjoyable learning experience for your children. It will make better memories for your family in general. So I just had a few things that I wrote down that have really helped us in our homeschooling journey. This is our 12th year homeschooling, and I consider us to be relaxed homeschoolers. And these are just some basic things that we have always done since I learned to let go of the school model. And these are things that have seemed to be really tried and true for us when it comes to homeschooling success. So the first thing is never underestimate the power of play. Too often, we don't look at play as the learning experience that it is. In fact, kids who are introduced to sit-down learning too early very often struggle with things later on in life because they were expected to do things earlier than their own learning timeline would have had them do it. So really, that is something that's really important. Don't start your kids too early on very rigorous structured learning. Kids are natural explorers. They're natural scientists, as John Holt, the author of Learning All the Time, would have said. There is so much experience that your kids can gain just from imitating the things that they see going on in the world, whether it would be through playing house, playing school, playing store, playing outside. They will explore things outside. They will get to see all of the bugs and all of the trees and the flowers. And, they will see the things going on in the world around them if you take them out and about with you. So really, and even, board games. I can't forget about board games. Board games are also, I think, really underestimated when it comes to homeschooling. Although I think that it's something that is catching on more now. They call it game schooling. And, it's something that not only is really good for your kids to especially brush up on their math skills or even geography, depending on what game they're playing, but it's also a nice thing for you to do together as a family. So the second thing that you can do to really simplify your homeschool is evaluate what you are doing and separate things into two categories. Is this particular thing that we are doing going to be useful to them in the future, or is it not useful and we're just doing it because we think that we have to do it? And that really is something that a lot of us struggle with. A lot of us still kind of look at the school model and we see the things that kids are learning in school. But really, if you think about it, although the kids are learning some things in school that some homeschoolers might not be learning, kids in school are not getting life skills. They're not learning how to balance checkbooks. They are not learning how to fill out job applications. They're not learning how to negotiate, for example, buying a car. These are all, and also even just working on a car repair. They're not learning a lot of these skills that people are going to need to learn how to do when they go out and they are living on their own. So that's something that, just think about it. Now, unfortunately, if you have kids who are college bound, some of the things that you are asking about being useful or not useful might be very iffy. So for example, and I've experienced this with my own kids. So when I'm doing algebra, with my, say, linear equations, with my teenagers. So many times they have said to me, "Mom, am I ever going to need this in life?" And I have had to say to them, "No, you will likely never use this in life." So that seems that it would put it in the not useful category. Unfortunately, though, if you have a child who is interested in possibly going to college, you might have to say, "But you will need to know this if you are going to go to college. And unfortunately, sometimes that's what happens if you do have a child who is going to take a more traditional after homeschool graduation approach, for example, college, rather than maybe an entrepreneurship or an apprenticeship, something like that. They may need to learn some things that really on the surface don't look useful at all, and they probably aren't. And the only way that they are useful is if your kids are going to be going on to learn in a college setting. So that's something to think about. But yeah, just think about the things that you're learning. Take a really long, hard look at them and just ask yourself, why are we doing this? Is this going to have any value for my kids when they're older? And if you find that there is really no reason that they should be doing it, then you can set it aside, and you don't even necessarily have to replace it. Your homeschool doesn't have to be filled with all kinds of stuff. It doesn't have to be filled with multiple subjects. It doesn't have to be filled with multiple resources that you're doing. You don't have to be doing 6 hours worth of homeschool activities every single day. Really take advantage of the fact, and I mentioned this before when it came to play, but really just living life. Life offers so many learning opportunities that we don't think about. And although as homeschooling parents, it might be fun for some of us, especially in the beginning, whether you're first starting out or whether it's the beginning of a new homeschool year, it might be fun for us homeschool moms and dads to plan everything out and to decide what curriculum they're going to use or what homeschooling methods we're going to use. In the end, the things that are going to affect your children and that they will likely retain the most are those things that they are doing simply because they enjoy doing them. And a lot of times it has nothing to do with what you are doing in your homeschool. And if that is the case, that's okay, because I'm going to tell you that that is how it is for majority of families. So the next one is kind of connected to that. Don't compare. Don't compare your homeschool to other homeschooling families. Don't compare your homeschool to what kids are learning in school. Don't compare your homeschool to what other people think your kids should be learning. This is where a lot of times I think that we bring in a lot of unnecessary things into our homeschool that we might not have particularly looked at, but we see other families doing it and we think, maybe I should be doing that because I don't want my kids to be behind. But really, there is no such thing as behind when it comes to the things that you're learning in your homeschool, because all families are unique. They all have different needs. Kids have different learning styles. They have different interests. And just because one family is doing something or one school is doing something that you are not, it does not mean that you have to start collecting things and load up your homeschool with lots of, I will say, things that are not useful just because you feel like you need to be like everyone else. Don't compare. Your family is unique. God made your family unique, and you need to embrace it. So another way to simplify your homeschool is to start strewing. Do you know what strewing is? I haven't talked about this in a while. Strewing is something that I came across when I was unschooling and back when I was researching unschooling. And if you're not really clear of the word that I'm saying, it's strewing, strewing. And what it really means is just leaving things around the house for your kids to find that they might find interesting, things that they might be able to use to pass the time, things that they might not particularly choose on their own, but when they see it, they might be like, hey, that's neat. So for example, if you have maps on your wall, that is considered strewing. So many times, even when we weren't doing homeschooling, I found my kids standing at the map, trying to find different countries or trying to find where we live or looking at the oceans. And that is what strewing is all about. Maybe it's leaving some puzzles out. Maybe it's leaving a book that you found on a topic that you know that your kids either do enjoy or you think that they might enjoy. You might, take that book, whether you get it at the library or if you buy it, and set it on the coffee table. You might want to set some search a word books around, or you might want to get your kids, especially if they're younger, some little play food and set it out for them. And it doesn't necessarily have to be something that they 100% have to use. So when it comes to strewing, Don't get upset if your kids choose not to use it at that time. You can leave it out for a few days, or maybe even a week or two. And if it seems like it really isn't catching their interest, you can put it away and you can get something else out for you to strew. And strewing does not have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be that you are going out all the time and, to set new things out. As you put things away, you can pull out some other things that you already had. You might find some old magazines, even old family pictures that can spark conversations about your family tree. There are so many ideas when it comes to strewing, and that is really a great way for your kids to keep learning as they're not doing their homeschool routine. And it might give them, as I mentioned before, some ideas that they may not have thought of on their own. So the next one to simplify is something that I talk about a lot, is just focus on the 3 R's and use the rest of the day to let your kids follow their interests. And I think you know why, because I've been talking about the value in play, the value in life learning, the value in strewing. So obviously your kids are going to need those foundational skills. They are going to need to know how to read, how to write, and how to do basic math. Now, trigonometry and calculus and those sorts of things, yeah, those are debatable. But there are the basic math your kids are going to need to know how to do. So once your kids have a strong foundation, especially in reading and writing, they can really go on to learn anything else that they want to. If your kids are solid readers, if they find something while they're out on their own that they want to know more about, they can just look it up and they can read about it. If they have good writing skills, they can take notes. They could even maybe make up a little handbook for the things that they're learning about. So when it comes to homeschooling, those really are, if you're talking academic wise, those are the most important things for your kids to take hold of, are just reading, writing, and math. If they have those, if they have a good foundation in those, they are well on their way to being able to learn all sorts of things when it comes to just self-directed learning. And the last piece of advice that I have for you on how to simplify your homeschool, and this is actually, it's a summary of something that I saw earlier today in a meme, and I thought that it was really good. I don't have it memorized, but the gist of it is that what you need to do is you need to forget how school looks and you need to embrace how learning looks. And sometimes people don't realize that they're not the same thing. Just because school looks a certain way, that doesn't mean that that's how learning always looks. Learning looks lots of different ways. It doesn't look just like a child sitting at a desk writing, or a child looking at a chalkboard, or a child looking at a PowerPoint. It could look like a child making slime. It could look like a child catching frogs. It could look like a child on a nature walk finding animal prints. It could look like a child standing at your living room wall looking at a map. It could look like a child baking cookies with you. These are the things that you want to embrace in your homeschool. All of the many various ways that your kids can learn, the things that they are going to enjoy, the things that they are going to retain, and really just take all those notions that you have about what learning is supposed to look like that you learned from school, kind of push those to the side and embrace the life that you have all around you. That's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. And if you have any questions or comments, you can leave them here on Instagram or on my community page. And if you like my work, you can check out my Patreon page and see what I have there. And I hope you have a great day.